The Golden Dragon restaurant in Los Angeles, Chinatown, smelled like ginger, soy sauce and sesame oil that had soaked into the wood walls for 30 years. Friday evening, June 12, 1970, 7:30. The dinner rush was in full swing, 80 people packed into a space designed for 60, families at large, round tables, business dinners in corner booths, the sound of chopsticks on porcelain, Mandarin and Cantonese mixing with English, laughter, the clatter of wokes from the kitchen, steam rising. This was not a martial arts school, not a demonstration hall, just a restaurant where people came to eat. Bruce Lee sat at a table near the back with 3 of his students, Dan Inosanto, Ted Wong, James Lee. No cameras, no interviews scheduled, no public appearance, just dinner after a long training session. Bruce wore a simple black collared shirt, sleeves rolled to elbows. His students were tired, sore. They had spent 3 hours working chasao, sensitivity drills, contact reflex training. Now they were eating, talking about technique, about timing, about the difference between knowing something intellectually and knowing it in your body. Bruce was demonstrating a point with chopsticks when the voice came from the bar, loud, cutting through the restaurant noise like a knife. "Hey, that's the karate guy from TV, the Green Hornet guy, the one who does all that kung fu stuff." The speaker was a large man, 6'2", maybe 270 pounds, square jaw, thick neck, the build of someone who played college football and never quite let it go. He sat at the bar with 2 friends, suit jacket off, tie loosened, Friday after work, drinks in, confidence high. His friends laughed. One of them said something quiet. The big man waved him off, stood from his bar stool. His movement drew attention. When someone that size stands up in a crowded restaurant, people notice. He walked toward Bruce's table, not aggressive yet, just confident, the walk of someone used to being the biggest person in a room. He stopped 3 feet from Bruce's table, looked down, smiled, not friendly, challenging. "You're Bruce Lee, right? The kung fu teacher?" His voice was loud, intentional, wanting others to hear. Bruce looked up from his meal, calm. His face showed no irritation, just attention. "That is correct," he said. His voice was quiet. The man grinned wider. "I played linebacker at USC. 3 years, 270 pounds. I've seen your show. All that flipping and jumping around. Looks good on TV, but I always wondered if that stuff would work in real life. You know, against someone who actually knows how to hit." The restaurant had gone quiet. Not completely, but the tables nearby had stopped talking. Chopsticks paused mid-air. People were listening. Bruce's students tensed. Dan's hand moved toward his napkin, preparing to stand. Bruce raised one finger slightly, a small gesture. Dan stayed seated. Bruce looked at the large man. His expression remained calm. "I am sure your football training was very thorough," Bruce said. "I hope you enjoyed the show. Now, if you do not mind, I am having dinner with my friends." The dismissal was polite, firm, final. Most people would have taken it, walked away, saved face, but the man had been drinking, had an audience, had 270 pounds of confidence. He did not move. Instead, he leaned forward, hands on Bruce's table. "You know what I think? I think all that kung fu stuff is just dancing. I think if you and I went outside right now, it would be over in about 5 seconds. You would not touch me. I would just grab you and that would be it. Size matters. And I have got 80 pounds on you." Drop a comment right now if you think Bruce Lee should have just walked away, because what happened in the next 60 seconds taught 80 witnesses that sometimes walking away is not what the moment requires. Bruce set down his chopsticks, carefully, precisely, wiped his hands on his napkin, looked up at the man. His eyes were calm, not angry, just focused. "You have 80 pounds on me," Bruce said. His voice was quiet, but everyone nearby could hear. "That is true, but weight is not skill. Size is not understanding. If you truly believe what you just said, then you are operating on assumptions that have never been tested." The man laughed. Loud. "You want to test them now, right here." Bruce shook his head. "I want to finish my dinner. You want to prove something to yourself and to your friends. Those are different motivations." The man's face flushed. He was not used to being talked to this way. Not by someone a foot shorter. Not by someone half his weight. His hand reached out fast, grabbed Bruce's shoulder, squeezed hard, trying to hurt, trying to intimidate, trying to prove his point about size and strength. The grip was real. Bruce felt it. The pressure genuine. The man's fingers were thick, strong, years of weight training, the kind of grip that could control someone. The restaurant went completely silent. An elderly woman, 3 tables away, whispered to her husband in Cantonese, "Someone should stop this." The husband did not move. Nobody moved. They were all thinking the same thing. This small man is about to get hurt by someone twice his size. Bruce looked at the hand on his shoulder, then looked up at the man's face. "You are making a mistake," he said quietly. The man squeezed harder, grinned. "Am I? Let us find out." He started to lift, trying to pull Bruce up from his chair, trying to use his size advantage, trying to drag Bruce outside, or just throw him, prove his point about weight and strength. His muscles engaged, his back tensed. He pulled. Bruce did not resist the pull, did not fight against it. Instead, he moved with it, rose from his chair smoothly, like he was standing up to leave anyway. The man was surprised by the lack of resistance, expected struggle, got cooperation. For a half second, he was off balance, not physically, mentally. His grip was solid, but his plan had been to overcome resistance. There was none. That half second was all Bruce needed. Bruce's left hand came up. Not fast, not a strike, just rising naturally, found the man's wrist, the one gripping his shoulder. 2 fingers pressed into a specific point on the inside of the wrist. Not hard, just precise. The man's grip failed instantly, not because of pain, because the nerve cluster that controlled his hand had been interrupted. His fingers opened involuntarily. His hand fell away from Bruce's shoulder. Confusion crossed his face. "What did you do?" Bruce stepped to the side. Small movement. 18 inches. Now standing beside the man, instead of in front of him. The man turned to face him, angry now, embarrassed. He threw a punch, right hand, haymaker, no technique, just size and anger. The kind of punch that had worked in bar fights and college parties. Bruce was not there when it arrived, had moved forward, inside the arc of the punch, too close for it to land with power. Bruce's right hand touched the man's solar plexus. Not a punch, not a strike in the way the man understood strikes. Just contact, just a push. But the push came from Bruce's entire body. Legs, hips, spine, shoulder, arm, hand, all coordinated, all arriving at the same instant. The force was not about muscle, it was about timing, about structure, about understanding how to transfer energy through a target instead of into it. The man's breath left, all of it. His diaphragm spasmed. He tried to inhale, could not. His face went from red to pale in less than a second. His hands dropped, went to his chest. His knees buckled, not from pain, from the involuntary response of a nervous system that had just been overloaded. He sank, not knocked out, not unconscious, just unable to breathe, unable to stand. His 270 pounds became irrelevant when his lungs stopped working. 5 seconds, from the initial grab to the man on one knee gasping. 5 seconds to prove that assumptions about size mean nothing when tested against someone who understands anatomy. The restaurant erupted, not with cheers, with gasps, with shocked silence breaking into whispers. What just happened? How did he do that? The big man could not answer, could not speak, just knelt there trying to remember how to breathe. His body slowly rebooting, diaphragm releasing, air returning in ragged gasps. Subscribe if you want to understand how technique defeats size when precision finds the opening strength cannot protect. Bruce stepped back, did not celebrate, did not explain, just stood there waiting. After 10 seconds, the man's breathing normalized. He looked up at Bruce. His face showed no anger now, just confusion, shock, the realization that everything he thought he understood about fighting had just been proven incomplete. Bruce extended his hand, offering to help him up. The man stared at it, then took it. Bruce pulled. The man stood, unsteady. "What did you do to me?" His voice was hoarse, barely audible. Bruce released his hand. "I showed you what you asked to see. You said Kung Fu would not work against size. You tested that belief. Now you know." The man touched his chest, still feeling the echo of that contact. "I could not breathe. I could not move. That was not a punch." "No," Bruce said. "It was not. It was an understanding of where to apply pressure and how bodies respond when certain points are activated. You are strong, but strength does not protect your solar plexus. Size does not prevent your diaphragm from spasming when struck correctly." The man looked at his friends at the bar. They were silent, staring. He looked at the 80 people in the restaurant, all watching. His face flushed again, not with anger, with shame, with the humiliation of being proven wrong in front of everyone. He turned back to Bruce. "I am sorry." His voice was quiet now. "I was out of line. I had too much to drink. I thought I knew." Bruce nodded once. "You learned something tonight. That is more valuable than being right." The man stood there for a moment, then walked back to the bar, grabbed his jacket, left money on the counter, walked out. His friends followed, silent. The restaurant slowly returned to noise. Conversations resumed. Chopsticks moved again, but everyone was talking about what they just saw. Bruce returned to his table, sat down, picked up his chopsticks. His students were staring at him. Dan finally spoke. That was 5 seconds. Bruce looked at his cooling food. "I was not counting. I was just responding." Ted Wong leaned forward. "You could have hurt him badly." Bruce shook his head. "Hurting him would have proven nothing except that I can hurt people. Teaching him something, that has value." The restaurant manager approached. A small Chinese man in his 60s. He had been watching from the kitchen door. "Mr. Lee, I apologize for that disturbance. I should have intervened sooner." Bruce waved him off. "It is fine. No damage. No problem." The manager bowed slightly. "Your meal tonight is complimentary." Bruce started to protest. The manager raised his hand. "Please, it is an honor to have you here, and an honor to see what I just saw." Bruce nodded. "Thank you." The manager returned to the kitchen, smiling. Years later, in 1978, a letter arrived at Bruce Lee's school. It was addressed to the Jun Fan Kung Fu Institute, but Bruce had been dead for 5 years. Dan Inosanto opened it. It was from the man, the restaurant patron. He explained that he had never forgotten that night, that it changed how he thought about strength, about size, about ego. He had started training in martial arts, not to become a fighter, but to understand what Bruce had shown him, that there are things beyond physical power, that humility is stronger than pride. The letter ended with a simple sentence. "I thought I was testing him, but he was teaching me, and the lesson stayed with me longer than any punch ever could." Dan read the letter twice, then filed it with other correspondence, proof that Bruce's legacy was not in the fights he won, but in the people he changed, the lessons he taught, even to those who challenged him in restaurants. Bruce Lee never spoke about that night publicly. For him, it was not an achievement, just a Friday dinner interrupted by someone who needed to learn something. He had shown them gently, precisely, without anger, without unnecessary force, just enough to prove the point that size is an advantage only if the smaller person does not understand how bodies work. That 80 pounds means nothing when 5 seconds of precision finds the vulnerability strength cannot guard. 80 witnesses. One large man who learned humility. One quiet teacher who finished his dinner and went home. June 1970. Golden Dragon Restaurant. The night a college linebacker discovered that everything he believed about fighting was based on assumptions he had never tested. and those 5 seconds of testing changed how he saw strength for the rest of his life. Share this with someone who needs to understand that the loudest voice in the room is not always the strongest, and the smallest person is not always the weakest. Real power is not in your size, it is in your understanding of where size stops mattering.